I'd like to call the Plaquemines Parish Council meeting to order, March 25th, 2021 at 3:16. Open for roll call. They show 8 councilmen present and Mr. Black's absent. Before we start, I'd like to congratulate Ms. Barbara Marcotte on receiving the St. Louis Medallion Award from the Catholic Church Sunday. She was one of 6 people from Plaquemines Parish that received it. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Ms. Marcotte?
9I. A resolution giving preliminary approval to the issuance of not exceeding $8 million of revenue anticipation notes of the Parish of Plaquemines, State of Louisiana, providing certain terms of said notes, making application to the State Bond Commission for approval of said notes, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
I'll offer as for a second. Second by Ms. Newberry. Tommy?
Because the Fuller Judell is on his way. He just called me. Should be a couple minutes out, but I can answer any questions y'all might have on this. And if I can't answer them, I'll.
Let's put executive session.
All right, we'll come back to that.
Okay. I just talked to him. He said just a couple minutes out. Should be walking in the door any second.
We'll go to executive number 2.
2.1. Pursuant to LARS 42:17A. 2. Kiosha Brown Watson versus Shelter Mutual Insurance Company, Plaquemines Parish Government, Robert Jackson and Tawana Lambert, case number 19-6626, Civil District Court for the Parish of Orleans, Attorney William Cover, Councilmember Konovich. And number 2 is being deferred.
Do I have to offer it? I'll offer as for a second. Second by Mr. LaFrance. Machine's open. Let the record show 8 with 1 absent. We'll go into executive session at 3:18. Thank you. I'm trying to get out of here quicker. Come out of executive session at 3:32 p.m. with no executive, no binding action. Can we go to H, Ms. Marcotte?
9H.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. An ordinance authorizing the settlement of Kiosha Brown Watson versus Shelter Mutual Insurance Company, Plaquemines Parish Government, Robert Jackson and Tawana Lambert, matter number 19-6626 of the civil docket of the Civil District Court of the Parish of Orleans, and to amend the 2021 General Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, Legal Judgments Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer. Ask for a second. Second by Ms. Newberry. Any questions from the board, administration, audience? Machine's open. Let the record show it passes 8 with 1 absent.
Nine I.
Yes, ma'am.
A resolution giving preliminary.
Hold up. You ready, Tommy? Yes, ma'am.
A resolution giving preliminary approval to the issuance of not exceeding $8 million of revenue anticipation notes of the Parish of Plaquemines, State of Louisiana, providing certain terms of said notes, making application to the State Bond Commission for approval of said notes, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
I'll offer as for a second. Second by Mr. Blink. Tommy, you.
I'd like to present Jason Akers here. He's going to explain the procedures to get this. This is, as you all know, this is the short-term loan for us to make it through cash for the end of the year. This is something we've been asking for the last 2 years. Last year, we didn't have to ask for we didn't have to go through the procedure to get the money because we had the BP, Transocean settlement, and we had almost $8 million in FEMA reimbursements, which we don't expect this year. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Akers, and he can explain the procedure. And if you have any questions, just please ask.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, council members. I'm Jason Akers with Foley & Udell. It's a pleasure to see all of you. As Tommy mentioned, this is just a procedural step to begin the process for what we call the revenue anticipation note, which is also just a cash flow loan. It's for not exceeding $8 million. That is an amount that comes from a cash flow projection that Tommy and his staff are doing that indicates that the amount of revenue that you're going to receive through the end of this fiscal year is going to be roughly $7 million short until the end of the fiscal year when you get your tax levy money in for, that's allocated to this year. This is merely a cash flow instrument designed to enable you to continue spending on budgeted expenditures, and it's only budgeted expenditures until that cash comes in from the tax levies. With your approval today, we'll make the application to the State Bond Commission, and we'll work with Tommy and Rennie and the staff in order to ensure that we get State Bond Commission approval. We'll then come back to you with a resolution with an interest rate in it and a purchaser, but that's a couple of months down the road. Our goal is to have something in line. We're shooting for June to July timeframe, and we think that we're going to, that would be sufficient. Tommy, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that should be sufficient if it's ready by that point to fund your cash flow needs throughout. If you recall, as Tommy mentioned 2 years ago, we actually did the same thing, and your total authorized amount was $7 million. Tommy, I believe you ended up drawing like $1 million.
Correct.
Yeah, that's all. So this is only drawn as needed. This is not you're going to immediately borrow $8 million. It's only pulled down as needed to be able to pay for those budgeted expenditures. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll just note that this is the first procedural step, and this will come back to you at a later date.
Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Akers, for coming to speak today to explain to the board. So you said we have interest. Is that interest accrued only when we withdraw money, or just from the $8 million that we're looking to possibly up to $8 million? So where's the interest coming from?
The interest would be only as drawn.
Only as drawn.
Only as drawn, and we would design this so that you would draw only as needed, and that would be our first approach.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Mr. LaFrance?
Yes. Tommy,
Yes, sir.
how much money are you anticipating us getting from the CARE Act?
We don't know exactly yet. We heard some numbers around $4 million. I don't think we are going to get it all this year, but I really don't know. I don't have anything exact yet.
Okay. With the price of crude oil, how much you think we gonna benefit from that?
That's hard for me to say.
Okay.
I know the price we budgeted is $40 a barrel. The price today I looked at was about $62 a barrel. Now, and it's been staying, within high 50s and $60 a barrel. It's the production.
How much barrels they producing?
Right. Our checks are not reflecting the higher price yet because it's always a 3-month lag.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't know how much more how much they're going to go up. But you figure if they even if they double, I mean, right now our biggest check, monthly check, is about $250,000. If it doubles to $500,000, it's still not going to be enough to make up this difference. I mean, I'm asking for $8 million. I really should be asking for more than that. But when we get our check in January to pay this back, we can't start off with zero. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping this will make it to the end of the year. So, and there's a lot of things. Yes, if the price goes up, we get more oil royalties. That's just less money we'll borrow. We won't ask for as much. This is just going out. What really has me concerned, last year we had, 4, 5 storms? We have one that's more of a major storm where we have to put out a lot of money up front. We're just not going to have it. We won't have it. So that's my biggest concern. But
Thank you.
as Jason said, we will only ask for the money if we need it. If I have to have it, that's the only time I'll go and borrow it. As you said, we had $7 million approved. You approved $7 million 2 years ago, and only got $1.5 million. So, I mean, I don't want to borrow this money any more than anybody else. That's for sure. But I don't see any way we can get around it.
Mr. Bartholomew?
My concern is that if the need arises, would you come back to the table, to this council for approval of taking that money out?
No. Jason can elaborate with that.
Well, I don't, because I can't see us doing that. Am I-
Not- He's not gonna come, we're not gonna come back to the table and ask for you to, each time we take money out.
Yeah, and this will be more spelled out in the next instrument to come before you. But it would be designed such that as needed to prevent a deficit balance or a zero balance in a cash account, then the money could be drawn. And that's both a state law rule and a tax law rule as well. So it wouldn't have to come to the council for approval of the draws every time, but you would know that it could not be drawn unless it was necessary to avoid a negative balance within an account.
Mr. Blink?
Sure. So Tommy, said another way that without this loan, barring, so if there was a Katrina-like scenario where the levee system was swamped down the river, we wouldn't be able to pump that out without having this, correct?
Well, I wouldn't have.
Wouldn't have any operating funds for an emergency
Right, because this is
situation.
money that we actually have to pay out, to pay these invoices as you go along. I mean, I was here with Katrina, we had $100 million in the bank at that time. Now, right now, I'm looking at about $11 million to make it through the end of the year. Now, of course, you're gonna get funds in each month, but the amount that comes in each month is a lot less than what's going out. So if you look at the cash flow chart that I sent you, I'm showing around August, unless there's something major that changes, we'll be looking to borrow some of this money by August.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Administration? Audience?
Burgard Turner, 161 East Bellevue, Port Sulphur. Is there anything that prohibits the council from stipulating that any drawdown comes before the council? To meet Mr. Bartholomew's concern, is there anything that would prohibit them from being able to do that? Or is it a matter of them adding that stipulation to whatever document they approve once they come back with the interest and the actual details of the plan?
Mr. Akers would have to answer that. I'm not really sure how that would work.
I don't see how
Yeah.
it can be a prohibition, but tell me.
So the legal answer to that is that no, there's no prohibition against that. The more practical answer is, however, that that requires an awful lot of coordination and choreography between the time that funds are needed and the dates of the particular council meetings that are scheduled, and assuming that they go forward as expected. So I'm just saying that there is a practical concern there. Legally, it could be required, but there is a practical concern that we'd have to clear. So.
The bottom line is no prohibition. And if the council decides that at every drawdown, we want to be notified in advance, it's up to the council to put that in the legislation. Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, so Tommy, Mr. Akers, is this just particularly payroll, or is this operation and maintenance and payroll?
All operations, all operations, any checks that come in, this is to pay for any of those things. This is just cash, no budget issues. The budget's set, just not changing the budget at all. This is just trying to put more money in our bank account to make payments.
Cash, okay, thank you.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, is there a commitment from the administration that you'll notify the entire council when you do make a drawdown?
I can do that. It's not a problem. I mean, unless, like I say, if y'all want something formal, the problem is we have.
No, I'm not saying formal, I'm just saying a commitment to see when you decide to have to make a drawdown.
I could tell you that's not a problem.
You send an email to us and telling us you're making a drawdown.
I'm taking out $1 million, I'm taking out $2 million or whatever, just to let you know. You'd have the commitment from me. I'll do it myself.
All right, thank you. I take
Mr.
Tommy's word on that.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, it'd be specifically stated what it's for, what the money is being used for. Because if it's infrastructure, it's got to be for infrastructure.
I can even send you the cash flow analysis showing you where the money, the money's going out, what checks,
Okay.
what checks are sitting out there. I'd really like y'all to see it.
Yeah.
Because this is something I deal with every day, trying to decide who's gonna get paid. And when the money gets tighter, I don't wanna have to do that,
Yeah.
Could the
We have to answer to our constituents.
Correct.
About the situation.
And I don't have an
We
issue
can't
with that at
say
all.
anything. How we gonna appropriate legislation that we're gonna have no idea what's going on?
Right. I have a cash flow sheet I use every day,
Uh-huh.
and it shows me how much money I have in the bank, and how many checks have to clear, and how much is that I need to release to be paid. And I can, when it gets closer, and when this thing is done, I can send you that, on a weekly basis even.
And that is done because of budgetary purposes only, because of the budget that we created is shortfall. Not no new projects or new.
No new
discrepancy.
budget. We're not adding anything to the budget with this.
No, you
So
got, but
nobody-
we don't want the money to be spent on something new either.
So nobody could come and say, hey, I want to build a building in Buras, so I'm going to use that money, so it
No.
can't be used for nothing like that.
No, it cannot be used for that.
I'll echo that as well. I'll confirm that. Yeah.
Mr. Blink?
Certainly. Tommy, are we behind already on some bills or payments or anything like that?
Well, what happens is we receive all of our tax money up front at the beginning of the year. It's around $13 million. We receive that money, we put it in the bank, and then we draw for that each year, each month to pay the
For folks
pay
at
the
home,
bills.
that check comes from the state?
Right, and then we have money that comes in, for everything else, that comes in and goes out. But if you look at the cash flow, it's roughly a difference of $3 million every month of a shortfall. So you can see it's just like anybody else's your bank account. If you're taking in a lot less than it's going out, eventually you're going to run out of money. And it's just cash. It's really confusing. Looking at the budget and the cash. This is a cash flow issue only, no budget. You set the budget's not going to change unless you do an amendment to change it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Machines are open.
Mr. Bartholomew?
And it passes 8-0.
Thank you. Thank you.
Number 3, proclamations is being deferred. Status report by the parish president. Number 4, don't know if we have anybody reporting.
Any one of y'all want to report anything? No report?
4A, update by charter directors.
Any updates? Next.
5, bids and advertisements. There are none.
Wait up, Ms. Marcotte. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yeah, on the reports that we receive, I have some questions, concerns. The main thing is the latest, is the weather, the rain that we received over the last couple of days. Been very devastating, in Plaquemine Parish, well outside on the East Bank. Now, we have, one pump station on the lower end of the East Bank is out. And people need to know. Somebody saying something?
That's Carlton's.
So people need to know what is going on with this situation and where we are to alleviate the circumstances, the condition we under. And if I know most of you passed on that back highway, you saw all that water that's in the field that's headed to the highway, then we're gonna have a problem tonight with this rain that's coming in possibly, may increase that water, which may wind up going closer and closer to people's homes. So we need to let the people know exactly what are the plans that is in place, plans that we plan to implement to work with that situation. That's my first comment.
Yes, sir. I spoke to you earlier this morning, but Conhagen should be there Wednesday. I got notification that the Keokul is going to be ready and be put in Wednesday. That's what we're waiting on. The cooling system that goes down into the water, into the basin, and all it does is just cool the oil in the water, and that's what we're holding up on. And they should be here Wednesday. That we just got that notification by lunchtime.
Do we have any avenues of receiving any relief, try to getting some pumps in? I know we had them before, but you told me that the pumps that we had used during the storm is not workable.
Right.
So, go ahead.
They had some hydraulic pumps that were bought in after Katrina, and from my understanding, that they're over there by the pump station 1, and they're not runnable. They've been there, sitting there for quite a while. I mean, that's all I know about those pumps right now.
And as it stands now, there's no remediation that's going to be implied, going to be implemented under this rainy condition at between the Phoenix and the David area to replace or support the drainage of that pump station that's no longer, it's not working at this particular time.
All right, the pumping station at Point Lahash right here is drawing the same canal, and that's the only thing we have right now drawing down.
Yeah.
And, I spoke with the superintendent for flood control about getting one of the best pumps of the 30-inch pumps and try to get the others working out of them, at least get one or two of them working. And it's going to take a little time. We got part code that's going to try to get that together.
All right, that's all I have right now is with that situation, because I don't think we're going to be able to resolve anything for the next wave of weather that's coming in this region, because we don't have anything in place to accommodate that. So we just pray to God that it doesn't be as extensive as it was yesterday and the day before.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, I have several things for each of y'all. Director of Operations, Mr. Russo, you said you picked up the seaweed on the East Bank. You have any plans on picking up the seaweed on the West Bank, or is that you said seaweed, are we talking about lilies?
Sorry. Rochelle was showing me something. I'm sorry.
You made a statement that you picked up seaweed on the East Bank. Are you talking about lilies? Is that the water lilies?
The water lilies, as they float down to the pumping station, like at Ali, they drag them out the canal and they put them on the bank, and we dispose of them later.
Have y'all still going to spray them? We had a conversation about you spraying the water lilies in the back canals.
I'll work with the
Jezebel.
superintendent from solid waste. I'm sorry.
Well-
Superintendent for drainage on that.
Yeah, if you could do that, Mr. Blink and I would appreciate if you could connect us on some emails and let us know when that's going to take place, because we do get phone calls from constituents. I mean, it's an issue we've been having for the past couple of years. I know it's very difficult to control these lilies. It can be complicated, but we need to if we're going to spray them, we're going to spray them, or if we're going to pick them up, we need to pick them up. Do y'all normally have a schedule for that, or just as needed?
Right now, we don't have a schedule for it, but we'll work on it, ma'am.
All right.
Anything else?
Yeah, I do have other things. Just give me a second. All right, Mr. Epley, you stated in your report that EMS, we still have that open position for a manager. How long has that position been advertised for? And when is it closing?
It's being advertised until filled.
Until
We don't
filled?
have a closing date on it. We're still working, hoping somebody that will be qualified will apply for the job, and we'll have somebody available to run the EMS system.
Okay, I was a little curious because I know at one time me and Mr. Russo had some conversations with EMS. One lady was very interested in that position, so I don't know if she applied for it or if she wasn't qualified. Thought that position would have been filled, but evidently not.
Or the way it's going, a doctor wouldn't qualify for it.
I don't know what the status is. Civil Service handles that, and they decide who's qualified and who's not qualified. And if they get someone that's qualified, then they'll forward that on to me.
And have y'all taken a position on any EMS? Are we just still going to continue to service with our Plaquemines Parish employees for EMS? Or y'all looking to possibly bid out just belle chasse? Or where are we with that?
No, we're not looking to bid out just belle chasse because belle chasse is where we collect the majority of our receivables. So, to have one company service just the belle chasse area and not service the rest of the parish would be doing a disservice to the rest of the parish since that's where most of the money is generated.
Thank you for that. And also I have another question. The ferries, how many boxes are you looking to order? You made a statement that these boxes are going to cost us $2,800. I thought that was a little pricey. Is it similar to Chalmette or is it something special?
It's from the exact company that we got from Labmar, who runs the Chalmette ferry system. They're the ones that told us where to get them. We shopped around. They had the best price. They are that price. We ordered them today.
And how many? I just want to know how many.
2.
That's just 2.
One for belle chasse and one for Point LaHash.
Okay, and the cost of fuel is rising, and it's going to probably continue to rise. So thank you for give us a notice to let the people know that we're adding 75 cents a gallon. Is that correct? With a cost of $850 per day to operate both boats. So Mr. Bartholomew has legislation on the table here, so I'm assuming that cost would go up if we approve that. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Blank?
Sure. So Jessup Bend, of course, as Ms. Newberry mentioned, did have some extensive flooding, yards, that kind of thing. One constituent of mine had water half an inch from entering their back door. Of course, they stayed up all night watching, and much to their relief, the water started going down at the last second. This was at the end of Plantation Drive. It was too close. And while the pumping stations were pumping down ahead of the rain event, there are several plugs in the drainage canal. There's sediment plugs behind orange groves. There's more than a few down trees. And some of those work requests are more than a year old. That's why folks it didn't seem like the canal was pumped down behind their homes. They were seeing higher water levels. The water just physically couldn't get down to the pump. That could have given a little bit more freeboard. Thank God no water entered that house. By removing those plugs, we could have a much better situation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have an introduction, moving some funding from the emergency fund to get some of these ditches swept in the Jessup Bend area. And if those canal plugs need to come out, we'll need to do that too. We need to look at maybe getting a private contractor from the area to try and do some of that work because we just don't have the capacity within the department itself. Also, one of the issues at the Ollie pump station is one of the keel cools leaks. And you were just mentioning, Scott, that this is the same issue on the East Bank here?
Yeah, I spoke to you as well this morning about that. We have a diver scheduled for Monday or Tuesday, and he's going to go to pump station 2 where we have something jammed in one of the pumps, and then he's going to go to Ali and check out the coolant. Once we got it drained down far enough, like the pictures I sent you this morning, it's drained to rock bottom, and then we'll go to Point Celeste where we have another log into the pumping station at Point Celeste. So, I mean, yes, unprecedented rain, it happened.
I understand. It's happening every year now, though, where we get 8 inches of rain in a night, and that's, another conversation that we don't really need to get into right now. But anyway, I'm just highlighting this. I know you and I talk about it, but there are folks at home that are relying on us to protect their biggest investment, which is their home. And I want to lay out what these issues are. I feel like I know the issues in my district very well. I feel like I have a good understanding, probably 70, 80, 90% of the problems are, and I have, requests in for many of those. But I feel like I keep a pretty good handle on what's going on. It's just, I want to lay these things out and show people that we know what the problems are and we just can't afford to get to them sometimes. But anyway, the keel cool situation at the Ollie pump station, I don't want to get into your work too much, but we could build a temporary keel cool to get us through hurricane season if there's some sort of issue where the main keel cool cannot be replaced for that engine. We have one entire engine pump unit that is down at that location. And look, any port in a storm, I don't necessarily want to shore up the internal drainage system with temporary fixes, but if that means having that fourth pump unit online for hurricane season, let's get the welder and do it. So, I mean, we're going to know more once the diver goes down there if that hole is the size of your thumb or a golf ball or whatever else, so the whole unit needs to be replaced. But I do want to show folks at home that we're thinking about this, trying to work together and find solutions to where their homes don't flood.
Right, and it's pretty much the same pump as the Bellevue pump with the cooling system. It will be fixed before hurricane season.
Now, I did notice when I went back there that it seemed that maybe one of the smaller pumps wasn't running maybe as fast as normal. Now, is that due to gearbox issues, or they're having to kind of take it easy on that one particular pump, or is it just not a very high-speed pump?
One of the smaller pumps is a smaller engine and a lower RPM than the bigger ones. The bigger pumps, of course, they pump more, and they're bigger pumps itself. So that's the only thing. The pump was running at its normal speed that it runs.
Okay, that's helpful. And one more thing, the lilies. Spraying the lilies is a double-edged sword. What happens is when you spray them, they die, they sink to the bottom, and then you have more detritus on the bottom of the canal, and it's already very, very shallow. I took my personal mud boat. I went all the way from the Ollie pump station as far down as I could get before a tree stopped me, somewhere down in Naomi. And there are many sediment plugs, but I would caution just spraying all of the lilies in there. And I know it's much faster and quicker and takes less manpower than trying to physically pull them out of there with an excavator, that kind of thing. But I do worry that we're losing capacity in the bottom of the drainage canal. So I'm sure y'all are going to take that into consideration when y'all do that work.
Yes, like I said, I spoke to you last night about 7:30 about the same issues and said I would meet with you next week. We're going to go look at it and we'll get a game plan on it.
Got it. Thank you for your commitment to keeping Jesup Bend dry. I appreciate it.
Excuse me, I've been asked by the council, they're having a difficult time hearing some of y'all, so please make sure you have the microphones in front of you and speak up. Thank you.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, my questions are related to drainage as well. The report that was distributed at the last meeting, after reviewing it, District 1 pump station was not in the listing of pump stations went to full page. Is there any reason why that was left out?
Which one? I'm sorry.
The report that was given to us by the Drainage Department at the last meeting, every pump had a page. Well, District 1, the Belle Chase Pump Station number 1, did not have its own page. And the reason, what's that?
It was running. It just went down.
No, I'm talking about the report that was distributed at the last meeting, omitted, first of all, we have two main pumps that drain everything from Oakville to the Intercoastal Waterway, Belle Chase number 1, Belle Chase number 2.
Yeah.
Number 1 was left out of the report on the individual pages. When you go back into the report and you look at the capacity listings, the Woodland or Belle Chase number 2 had 33% capacity, which was confirmed by the report that we received yesterday during the rainfall, or the day before yesterday when we received it during the rainfall. But the Belle Chase pump was listed at 100% in the back of the booklet, but never had its own page. So naturally, my constituents are concerned about when they're asking the question, are the pumps running? And the response is, yeah, the pumps are running. But they're not told that it's running at 50% capacity or 33% capacity. And so they want to know why the water's not running or not moving. And the reason is because the pumps are down and in those capacities. Not to
Right.
mention the Medal of Honor Park pump station is still out. And you remember back in June, we had that debacle between the president and I when he said he didn't listen to me. And what happened was that street flooded, and those individuals on that street cannot flush their facilities, causing a problem that exactly what I had said was going to happen happened. So, that was 8 months ago. We need to address this problem, and I guess my question is, when did the 50% capacity of the Belle Chasse Pump Station 1 go down? Because the report last week said it was at 100%. The second question is, when are we going to fix the pump on the Medal of Honor Park?
Yes, the Belle Chasse 1 went down the other night when the rain came. They didn't have enough air pressure. We had an air leak to the south part of the station. You got two sets of motors, one on the south part of the station, the other one on the north part. The north part was running. The south part had a major air leak, and they run off of air starters, and you need 250 pounds of pressure. So we were losing the air and couldn't never get the engines to turn over. So we have a mechanic out there today. They're looking into that, about separating the station with the air problem, and they're all working on that. And we had a fuel problem with the, yes, I'm sorry. I thought I heard something, I'm sorry. But yes, it went down the other night. I mean, it happens. I don't want it to happen, but it did, and we had unprecedented rain. And yes, I'm very pleased that nobody got water. Yes, it came close, and we got problems on the east bank, the west bank.
Hey, stick to my issue.
We'll get you the paper with Belle Chasse 1. It was 100%, but it went down.
Okay, and so I'm looking for the report for Belle Chasse 1 to be forwarded, to include in the report that was distributed at the last meeting, as well as an update on the Medal of Honor Park pump station that has not been repaired, and it's been requested for the last several years.
Well, they tried to get that one through a grant because we had to do it as a stationary pump. We couldn't do it as pumps on wheels where we could move them around. So that is in the process. I think engineering sent out an email yesterday that it's going to be going forward to engineering and design. And, that the structure is, that place is probably 50 years old. I'm not sure the year it was built, but termites ate up the foundation, and it is in bad shape. So, but it is on engineering and design, and will be coming to y'all pretty soon.
Well, I appreciate that. I appropriated that money a couple of years ago.
Yes, it's the $50,000, yes.
How much?
50, I believe. I'm not sure.
No. That the $50,000 was for installing the outfall for the pump station itself over the levee.
Oh, okay.
That was done many years ago, and that was never done. So you were supposed to get an HDPE pipe that the last time we discussed this over a year ago to hook up to that pump and run it over the levee into the intercoastal. And that would help keeping all Rose Street and XI Street from flooding, and people would be able to use their facilities. Well, that never happened, so I'm really looking for an update on the overall Barrier Road drainage project. That is what you're referring to, I guess, is going to be going out to engineering now. Will it include that pump station?
Yes, the Medal of Honor pump station. Yes, sir.
All right, well, that'll cover my item on the Fort St. Leon drainage project that I have on the agenda today for the update there. And as far as the pump stations, we rely on those two pump stations for the entire Belle Chasse area. So I would hope that, that we make that a priority, even if it's an emergency item that we have to appropriate emergency funds. I'm telling you that I would support emergency funding to keep those two pump stations running rather than have a constituents flood, above all other things.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Roussel, we have an email regarding the Fort St. Leon drainage.
Well, you can read it now if you don't mind.
Okay.
It's from Mr. Wilson Hildebrand, 116 Pie Street, Belle Chasse, Louisiana. A question for the administration. What is the current status of the Middle Havana Park pump station? Has the engine and pump been certified, and is it operational? Has a discharge hose been installed, and is it operational?
I think that was answered already, so.
Yeah, Mr. Hildebrand, if you're watching out there, the answer is that the discharge pipe has not been installed, and Mr. Scott has said that the project is moving forward through engineering and design and will be coming forward soon. And I know you've been writing these emails for a long time. I encourage you to continue to write them, and I appreciate your support on these issues. Thank you.
Mr. Blank?
Sure. Scott, in an instance where the air compressor is down at a pumping station, do we not have a service vehicle that has a large air compressor with that has the ability to deliver 250 pounds per square inch to get those engines started? I mean, I feel like any port in a storm at this point, if we could, flow like water to where the need is instead of just being like, hey, the compressor's down, it's down. I mean, is there anything like, can somebody run to Home Depot and buy a portable air compressor, and even if it takes an hour to get the tank charged, we could at least knock it out and get that other engine on? And
It's not as easy as you're saying, Richie. They got 8 day tanks up in there, and they have a major leak on one side. Mm-hmm. And with the pumps running, you cannot hear the air leak on the other side. We have a mechanic out there. They're working on it. He's going to give us a design to set up. The system was built in the 50s, so it's, they got pipe everywhere.
Sure.
If you come and see, I'll be glad to show you. And we're working on it.
Is there a screw compressor that we could pull from maybe one of our emergency contractors or anybody like that?
I asked that question, if I could go get one of the large shop compressors, stand upright. Said that's not going to work. We have a leak, and we got to find the leak before you could put air to it, because if you try to put air to it now, it draws down the air pressure from the other side of the system, and it'll shut down the other pump. So we have to get the canal down in place with the 2 pumps running, and then once we shut it down, we could try to find the air leak with just the air compressors working.
It doesn't.
And we looking at splitting the system. So, I mean, this all come up the other day when the rain event came. Yes.
They don't run off of air. Once you get it started, the air is finished. And if you had a valve inline somewhere.
You got to have air clutches on the machines. They got 4 of them in there. So you got to keep the air pressure to the clutches. Yeah, the initial charge to crank up the engine is powerful, but it's the air clutches that have to continue to work to make the pump work properly. So.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, I'd like Mr. Russell, Scott, if he can look into this, of trying to give us a list of all the outfall ditches on 30 White Ditch North and Phoenix South on Highway 15. Those are the main ditches that drains the highways. And if we can get those and identify those, then we can possibly start working on resolving our flooding issue when we have all that water. At least those main ditches can help us out a lot by draining the highways. If you can get that to me, so we can start working on some legislation to make that happen.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
State your name and address for the record.
Orrin Bentley. I live at 18691 Highway 15, Pearl, Louisiana. Councilman John Bartholomew addressed a good bit of my concern, but what I want to know, it was one pump down on the east bank. Why wasn't the community notified that it was one pump down on the east bank of the river? And if we'd have had rain yesterday, like we were supposed to, and also today, we wouldn't be right here right now. If you can go up there and take a look, I promise you we won't be here right now. That was one of my concerns. 2 concerns. The Dayback Community Center. I would like for somebody to go take a look at that Dayback, the swimming pool. we need that pool. We would like to have that pool up and running. If we can get some pressure washers or some paint from the parish or whatever, I'm sure I can get somebody to go in there and do it ourselves. But it looked like the kids not gonna have nowhere to swim this year, and that's not right. And all in the park, they still have down trees. There's a lot of videos I've been doing since yesterday and all day today of all the problems in the parish, and it's not right. It's not right. You know, all these councilmen, all the councilmen, councilwomen, you know, everybody, y'all need to, I'm asking y'all to come together instead of, I'm going to use the word beefing against each other. We certainly need help on the East Bank of Plaquemine Parish. We got Phoenix High School. We got some wonderful kids up there. You know, they're smart. We got a high average, you know. The kids deserve better than what they're getting. And, you know, that swimming pool, it got to be up. And all the linen and everything. And another question I'm going to go back to the pump. Why is that not a secondary, you know, the pump go down? Why is not a secondary pump to keep it going? And I heard somebody say we got to wait till Wednesday. Hold on.
I agree with everything you're saying, but during the president's update and the directors, is no real public questions to be asked. You have to wait till one of the ordinances come up for, say, pumping stations. Then you could come up and tell us all what you want.
Okay, well, I'm gonna stay on a pumping station.
But no,
why wasn't the community of Phoenix and Pearl Head, Phoenix, Divot, and Pearl Head notified that we were down to one pump? If, you know, through the night, we'd have woke up that morning, we probably would have been sleeping on top of our houses because we had no idea that the pump was down. I'm just letting everybody know I'm videoing everything that everything that I see need to be done on the East Bank of Plaquemine Parish. We are being neglected for so many years. I'm 54 years old. We're still being neglected. I'm still, you know, I just learned we got pump problems all over the place now. But, you know, and we got hurricane season. That's why we have a lot of problems. Why don't we get these pump stations up and running to protect the citizens of the parish?
He's going to give you his, and we not, like I said, you got to wait till an ordinance comes up. This part of a meeting is the president and the director's updates. And in the charter, it says
I heard y'all talking about the pump station.
They talking about it because that's their questions. The public can't come up and ask a question to the directors or the parish president.
All right, I got you.
That's what I was told.
All right.
Before you go, I would love to give you this, but Scott, could I get a commitment from y'all to put this pumping station report on the website somewhere so members of the public in Plaquemine Parish can see and understand the deficiencies of the pumping stations where they live, so they know what kind of risks they're dealing with?
Thank you.
Yes, we can.
Okay, because this was given to us on paper, but not electronically, as far as I know. And if you could please forward us an electronic copy as well, to where this could be out far and wide. We tried to pass a millage for this, and obviously we failed when it came to educating the public on the cost, the complexity, and the seriousness of maintaining the internal drainage system and the levee system. And I should have had more public meetings within my own district about this. We had a lot going on at the time. I understand. But this will lay out most major problems with most pumping stations within the parish. It doesn't have a total cost estimate, but a lot of these things, you can see the actual capacity.
Well, just hand him the thing. This is not a question and answer part of the agenda. Thank you.
Certainly. Happy to help.
Like I said before, this is not a part of a question and answer part of the agenda. Well, you'd have to put your concerns to Mr. Bartholomew or your councilman,
Later on.
and he could bring it up to him. Thank you. Mr. Blink, you finished?
Yes.
9M, an ordinance to amend the 2021 general fund operating expenditure budget, flood control, general department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. LaFrance? Mr. LaFrance offers, I'll second. Mr. LaFrance?
We have changes to this legislation.
Please read it, Ms. Ball.
Sure. In the preamble, we're adding, and the 2021 Road Maintenance Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, Road Maintenance Public Right-of-Way Department. In Section 1, we're removing the word "from" with a blank. We're adding another section, Section 2, the 2021 Road Maintenance Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, Road Maintenance Public Right-of-Way Department is amended as follows, and it's taking $100,000 from the Professional Services Grass Cutting Fund, adding Section 3, it hereby authorizes the appropriation of $150,000 from the fund balance designated for emergencies to the general fund unreserved undesignated fund balance. And the original Section 2 is now changed to Section 4.
So offer.
Mr. LaFrance offers with those changes, I'll second. Mr. LaFrance?
This is for the purchase a motor grader. As you know, for several years, we've been piecemealing our roads with a tractor, and it has been insufficient. But also, this motor grader will also be used to grade off the side of the road. Some places, especially on Highway 11 or on our river road, where the side of the road is higher than the road, and sometimes we have water on our road. So this is a piece of equipment that we can use to grade off our road.
Any questions from the council? Mr. Blank?
Mr. LaFrance, thank you very much for doing all the homework and getting this in order. It's something that almost every single district in the parish needs. We really appreciate you. Now, I understand that there is a grant from DOTD to actually be scraping some of the sides of the roads. Could we use some of that funding for this?
Mr. Roussel?
What was that again, Mr. Blake? I'm sorry.
The grant that's coming from DOTD to do some road striping and scraping the sides of the roads, could some of that be used to help offset the purchase of this motor grader?
No, that's just for the road striping. That's just to stripe all like Barry Road, Highway 11, Diamond Road, Highway 15. That's just the striping that DOTD is going to do.
Got it. Okay. I thought in that package, scraping some of the shoulders was included, or it needed to be done before striping could actually take place.
No, sir.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Bartholomew? Stepped away. Mr. Alborough?
My question is, did this go through the proper protocols per state requirements for purchasing? Where's the other two comparisons? Did this go through our purchase department to make sure we're getting the best deal?
This equipment is on the state contract.
And
From my understanding, you still need two comparables,
we got two bids, but
two additional. You need three total.
anybody want to answer that? What you just did?
I was corrected, so that will save me some time at my job in the future. Just another question, though. I noticed the closest one would be in St. Rose. If there's warranty work issues and all, is there not someone closer to purchase this equipment from?
Not the John Deere. Is that it, Mr. Holborn? Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, we are in dire need of that equipment, piece of equipment. We haven't had any grade being done on the East Bank in about 4 years. And it's terrible. I mean, the little machine we had, we never could get it over here because half the time it stayed broke. So I'm in support of that.
Any other questions from the council? Mr. Roussel?
Yeah, I want to thank Mr. LaFrance for moving this forward. This has been an issue for Walker Road, my constituents, for some time now. We've been told that we don't have the equipment to take care of Walker Road, and that the Walker Road residents have been told that as well. Well, this will help us take care of that road and probably be able to even make a schedule as was promised so many times. So I'm supportive of it as well. Thank you.
Mr. Blank?
Yes, sir. Mr. Roussel, since this equipment will undoubtedly be under your charge, I have a couple questions. Will this piece of machinery be under the care, maintenance, and guidance of one particular operator? And will a maintenance day each week be built into the schedule of this machine to make sure that the oil is changed, that everything is greased properly, and that we're not extending it beyond its capabilities and just wearing it out really quick?
Yes, it'll be on the flood control. So they do maintenance and scheduling and all of that and record it on the booklets that we get from purchasing. Yes, sir.
And I agree. Thank you, Mr. LaFrance, because I'm getting calls from constituents on Shell Lanes need it done. For the 2 boat harbors I have need it, and Fort Jackson too. Thank you. I'll support it. Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, unfortunately, not all our districts have a dire need for this equipment, but I know it's a dire need for the parish. And as I'm just going to piggyback on all the council members that do have these issues, I know I will support this because there's a dire need for the parish. It kind of prevent, these constituents coming back to the council meetings, making statements about the roads having holes or not being taken care of properly. And this is equipment that's way overdue, so thank you. I'll support it.
Any questions from the administration? Audience? Shane? Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Tracy Riley. I reside at 13482 Highway 23. In light of the issue that came up on the previous line that speaks to accountability, what is the reporting piece of this? Like, how many days will it take from this approval and the funds to be allocated to the appropriate department to start that work? And is there some reporting process to be followed to make sure that the funds that were allocated for this particular project actually happened and on what date, so that there's no question, months from now, whether or not the work for that particular project got done?
Is that about the grade are we talking about right now?
We're talking about what you're about to approve now.
Well, if we vote on it, how many days before we could get there?
I don't have any idea.
I know it was supposed to take.
When I spoke to the John Deere, he told me we're looking between 45 to 60 days before the equipment can be delivered.
So in terms of preventing any more questions like the one that we had earlier about the $50,000 allocation to work on the drainage, can we have some type of report or a closing report to say that this particular item got done within a amount of time?
Sometimes it takes a while to get the machines, and yes, we can have the report when it is delivered to us, and then we'll go from which streets to start working on, So it's just sometimes it takes longer than the 20, 40 days, because we purchase trucks on state orders, same thing. So it may take a little longer, it may take shorter.
So I offer that as a solution to any concerns that we might have moving forward about whether or not the funds that are being allocated actually land on the projects that they were approved and that work actually gets done. That's a recommendation.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Newberry.
So I guess I'm thinking that you want it to be public record on a website to say, hey, which streets are going to be graded at which week. I mean, I think I would appreciate some transparency from the administration. When you buy this equipment that costs a lot of money, you want some kind of transparency of, hey, what roads are going to be working on which month or which week. Is that correct? Is that what you're asking?
That is a way, absolutely. Excellent way to be transparent is by sharing it with everyone on that website at the same time.
So I would ask administration, that's another thing that we can put on our website for the people to understand where that equipment's at what time and what.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. Any other questions? Machines are open. It passes 8-0.
Thanks, Councilman, for your support. This is a piece of equipment has been so desirably needed. So
Ms. Moore.
hopefully we can get these roads graded and also get the water off the road. Thank you.
Can we go to K and L?
Yes, sir. On K, an ordinance to amend the 2021 manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, ferries, general department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And Mr. Chairman, after this is offered in second, I have an email to read.
Mr. Bartholomew? Mr. Bartholomew offers, I'll second.
Oh, I'm sorry, this has changes.
Yes, ma'am, Ms.
I'll
Moore.
have those for you in just 1 second. Okay, the changes are in section 2 on line 18. The amount is going to be $100,000. On line 19, $100,000. On line 25, $121,360.
Mr. Bartholomew, you offer? Mr. Bartholomew offers with changes, I'll second.
Would you like me to read the email?
Yes, ma'am.
This is from Elton Frederick, 108 Vickers Road, Belle Chasse, Louisiana. Coronavirus has affected our community greatly. Our parish has been hit hard economically, and worst of all, we all know people who have lost their lives from this. On top of that, we now have a ferry schedule that doesn't work for the working people of our parish. Workers and businesses have been greatly inconvenienced, and some even lost their jobs. The people came up with a compromise split morning and evening schedule, but that was shot down. President Biden's CARE Act is meant to help working people and local governments adversely affected by the pandemic. It is my opinion that the CARES Act money that the parish will receive should be used for getting both ferries crossings back to the old traditional schedule, or at the very least, we should use the compromise split schedule. The people should demand it and contact our local, state, and federal elected officials. If not CARES Act money, we should have a little more revenue coming in from higher crude prices lately, and the ferry schedule should be of the highest priority. Working people can't simply leave their job early or ask for another ferry crossing when the last ferry is full, as our parish president and council members do. Think about that when y'all rushing through the meetings and packing y'all stuff up to get to the last ferry. This is not just an East Bank thing, it affects the whole parish. Let's go back to the old schedule so our parish can grow as a whole and become united. Thanks, Elton Frederick.
Any questions from the council? Administration?
I sent an email to the council members a couple weeks ago with an analysis of what we would need in order to run an extended schedule for the ferries. $200,000 doesn't come close to increasing the schedules in the time that we need, in and the time to cross the river. I also sent something in the update this week, and Ms. Newberry made note of it, about fuel increasing in cost. In this ordinance, there's no allocation for fuel. So if we're burning 60 gallons an hour in Belle Chasse and 40 gallons an hour in Point LaHash, and we run extra hours, how do we pay for fuel? So those are my concerns.
Mr. Bartholomew?
What has been proposed is what has been recommended by the administration up front, that we need one crew added to give us 5 crews instead of 4, what we already have now. And that's what we have at this time to appropriate for hiring that particular group of making it 5. Now, the schedule can be set up where you have a split shift, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, to accommodate the people that needs to be need to get home at a certain time and need to leave at a certain time. It's just you got to sit down and design and plan it and implement. That's why it wasn't designed from my standpoint. Given we have a plan, but I want the administration to set their plan up to make it work and not have any discrepancies to exist in getting the ferry to operate. Now, if you want us to do it, I don't have a problem setting that up and giving it to them. But the initial thing was a crew, and we have that.
Mr. Bartholomew, this legislation was changed a month ago here in these chambers. There was money for fuel in the legislation, and you took it out.
Yeah, because at the recommendation of the council members, say when that need arises, we'll come back and put that money in the budget if we don't have it to maintain the fuel part of it.
The administration did not recommend taking the fuel out.
No.
Thank you.
No. That's the only reason, and that's why it was taken out.
Any other questions from the administration? Audience? Just state your name and address for the record.
Drexel, North Seas, 17977 Highway 15. Mr. Roussel, the port give you 1.5 million. Will that help any? Is that for the ferries? I mean, it's saying for the ferries.
This is what happened. In the budget hearings, we moved a $1.5 million allocation appropriation from the port to the Plaquemines Parish government to operate ferries. That is already in the operations budget. The battle has been getting the port to write the check. Now, I've fought for these ferries for the last 6 years, and I continue to fight for the ferries. However, today, I'm not going to fight for something that is not going to work. And if the administration doesn't have a schedule, and I'm all for a split schedule. I know we used to run a split schedule. That I don't know if that answers your question. I'm getting into the merits of the ordinance now, but it helps, but it's already accounted for in the budget.
All right.
So that $1.5 million that we took and appropriated, it would just now transfer to us today to keep the ferries running.
All right. But thank you. But I can't see why we keep bouncing this back and forth. We need the ferry to run as early as possible to get people on their jobs. And it needs to run a little bit later when people are making crew change. If they miss that 7 o'clock ferry and they work over here, they have to go all the way through that city. I know y'all don't want to be driving around through that city. So they shouldn't have to drive around through the city to get back to their homes at night. I mean, we gotta get something. We gotta get this done.
I agree, but from what I'm hearing from the administration right now, there's not enough fuel in this budget, and it doesn't seem like anybody wants to do the split shift. So we can appropriate this money today, but I don't know that it's going to fix the problem. So we have to be a little wiser on how we organize the ferry schedule, or find a way to do it. And I'm to the point where I'm not sure how we're going to get there. That's my point. And I understand. I believe we should be able to supply a ferry crossing for working people, morning and afternoon. And if you have a blank in the middle of the day, then you go to the other ferry or whatever. I think there's a way to do it, but it hasn't been proposed yet. And to piecemeal it, to say we're going to do this and add a crew and have no fuel doesn't make much sense. So I understand what Mr. Epley's saying, I understand what Mr. Bartholomew's saying, but that's where I'm at, and that's why I voted the way I voted the last meeting. So I've been supporting these ferries for the last 6 years since I've been here.
Thank you.
Mr. Bartholomew?
We could have written up the schedule, but we didn't want to dictate to the administration, not the department head, to develop their schedule. Now, if they would like for me to do that, I don't have a problem doing that and giving them what we had planned and doing a split shift. And each shift would be constituting 8 hours a day and 40 hours a week. That would be developed. Now, and it was recommended we not go in depth unless we have to, and we may not need that money. For a few, it may not be that cost. And if it is, we'll bring it up at the point in time and get it done after councilmen say they're willing to do that. But if it's a council at this table want to implement it now, I don't have a problem doing that either. But I was just trying to meet the needs, the concerns of the people at the table. That's
Yes,
all,
sir.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Chadwick Ginkalade. I'm from live at 145 Lewis Lane, Point LaHash. I'm a lifelong resident of the East Bank. I work at Conoco Phillip with Phillip 66 now. So I've been working at this plant for 29 years. Started off as an operator. I worked myself up to a supervisor. And never in my life would I would have thought that the only time for me to think about stepping down as a supervisor is because I can't get to work on time. I left home at 4:30 this morning to get to work at 6:45. Drove through New Orleans to get to a place that I live 15 minutes from. It is, in my eyes, it is unacceptable. You guys need to get in other people's shoes and start looking at what's happening to this parish. We are suffering. We are falling apart. And it's because we are not in unison on what we want to do. It's unacceptable. You need to sit down, reflect, pray, whatever it takes. You guys were elected to take care of the people that elected you. And that's what I'm asking. I'm asking for you to sit down, calm down, and take care of the people that put you in these positions. Now, I don't know if I'm wrong, mistaken with what I'm about to say. From my understanding, there's money. Money has came from the state that was for highways and to connect Highway 23 and 39. That money was taken through the years and put in the general fund. So the people are being deceived if that's true. There's money for this ferry. Always been money for this ferry. But somewhere along the line, somebody chose to take that money for something else. I would like for it to be put back. I know I'm frustrated. I apologize for the frustration, but this is my livelihood. My wife, my kids, the people I take care of, I do not want to step down as a supervisor. I fought racism and everything else to develop and get myself to the position where I am right now. And I do not want to step down because I can't get to work on time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Burgard Turner, 161 East Bellevue, Port Sulphur. I know some of you might not want to piecemeal it, and you're saying that there isn't money for the fuel at this time, but if I understood Mr. Bartholomew correctly, the previous legislation had money for the fuel, but in trying to, in catering to council members, that portion was taken out, and then so today to vote against the legislation because the fuel isn't in there when the request was by council members to take it out. There are a lot of projects that are done on a piecemeal basis. You do it as the money comes in. But if this was done, if this was taken out at the request of council members, why use that as a justification to vote against it because it's no longer in there? If you if you fund this portion of it, if you fund the crew, and then come back, if the money was there in the last meeting, then add it back. If that's the only piece that's missing, add it back. But it doesn't seem fair or right to deny the project this phase because you haven't addressed the other half of it just yet. We do that all the time. And so I just want to encourage the council to support the legislation. You know that it's a need. We find ways to get projects done that we want done. This is affecting livelihood. This isn't just recreation. And so I'm asking that you support this legislation. If it was necessary to have the funding in for the fuel at this time, then somebody should have communicated that back to Mr. Bartholomew, being that he had taken it out because of at the request of council members. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bartholomew? Mr. Roussel?
Mr. Burkhardt, Turner, if that comment was reflected to be in my comments about not supporting it because the fuel's not in it, I'm not a council member that asked for the fuel to be taken out to start with, and I don't know where that came from. And in my conversations about this, I don't do things halfway, and you should know that by now, because I'm going to deal with the whole problem. And my issue is that if the administration is sitting over there saying that this ain't going to get it and they're not going to do it, we've been in this boat before, where we've appropriated money, asked for ferries to be run, and they run them on a schedule that they see fit. So my issue is that if it's not going to work, then I'm not going to jump into it. And as far as doing it halfway, when we get to the bottom of this budget and start laying off people, then that's going to be the reality that we're going to face, because that's where we're headed. So to keep on talking about running this ferry at different schedules until the administration agrees with what wants to be done, we're not going to get a ferry schedule that's going to accommodate people. I told you a few minutes ago that I am for the split schedule. And if there's a way to find to work it, then that's the way that we should go. But I take those comments about doing it halfway and no fuel as being something. I didn't have anything to do with taking the fuel out of the last time. But I want you to know that it's not me that took the fuel out. And if they were directed at me, that I can't support it without it being a project that's going to work. And this, to me, is not going to work.
Mr. Roussel, you and I both know that many times projects are done in phases as the money comes in. This isn't anything new with government. You know that. I know that. Now, where that came from as far as who had the conversation with Mr. Bartholomew, I don't know, and I wasn't directing it to anybody. I was basing my comments based on Mr. Bartholomew's comments.
I know, but my comment was that I couldn't support it because it wasn't even dealing with the whole issue. The fuel's not in there. But to say that as the money comes in, if you saw what we had to do a little while ago, we had to authorize $8 million to borrow because there's no money coming in.
Well, if we have other projects, Mr. Roussel, I think...
This is not a project. This is an operational cost.
I understand that fully. But what I'm getting ready to say is that if we have other projects going on, maybe some of the funding for those projects needs to be diverted because this is a priority, and this council needs to make it a priority. We find ways to do that which we feel is important. We need to find a way to do this.
I appreciate your sentiments. However, we did that in the budget, and that's why we're here today.
Thank you.
And we've been coming back to this council. The council's been coming back and adjusting the budget. That's an ongoing process. This is a priority, and adjustment needs to be made for this ferry. We make adjustments, make one for the ferry.
Thank you, Mr. Beauregard. Any other questions? Machines open. And it fails 4-4. You withdrawing L? All right. Deferring L. We go back to the start of the agenda.
Number 5, there are no bids and advertisements. Number 6, beer and liquor licenses.
Cue in if you have a beer liquor license. Mr. Gouy?
I have one, Little G's Cajun Restaurant, 9338 Highway 23, Belle Chase.
Are there any others? Questions from the administration or audience? Machines are open. It passes 8-0.
Number 7, building permits.
Can we do, are you going with number 1, Mr. LaFrance? Deferring 1. Can we do 2, 3, and 4 in global?
Yes, sir. Number 2, Columbia Gas Transmission, application number 2021-201, dated February 23, 2021. Remove and replace a cathodic protection system, Tidewater Road, Venice area. Councilmember Konovich. Number 3, Crimson Gulf LLC, application number 2021-206, dated February 24, 2021. Wheel wash, install sheet piling around an existing facility. Main Pass 69, Councilmember Bartholomew. And number 4, Kinder Morgan /IMT, application number 2021-260, dated March 15, 2021. Install 8-inch HDPE pipe 18559 LA23, Port Sulphur. Councilmember LaFrance.
Mr. LaFrance offers there a second? Second by Mr. Blink. Any questions from the council, audience? Machines open. Can I have a reconsideration?
Move to reconsider.
Have a motion to reconsider. Is there a second? I gotta abstain.
Reconsider, you gotta say what?
Which one? You gotta say which vote.
Items 2, 3, and 4.
2, 3, and 4.
Motion to reconsider the approval of items 2, 3, and 4.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFrance. There's a motion to reconsider 2, 3, and 4. Any questions? Machines open. And it's reconsidered. Do I have an offer for 2, 3, and 4? Mr. Blink offers, Mr. LaFrance seconds. Machines are open. It passes 7-0 with 1 abstention.
Seven B, Cajun Oaks Park, Corey Lott Trailer Park Renewal, Joy Lane, Belle Chase, Louisiana. Councilmember Roussel.
We're waiting on the legal department to defer it. We're going to defer that item.
That item falls off the agenda with this deferral. C, Alita Brown DeMall, Third Trailer Residence, 139 Blanchard Lane, Boothville, Louisiana. Councilmember Konovich.
Do them all in global.
D, Kenneth Begovich, Business Occupancy in in A-2 zoning district, parcel number 1052250, Highway 23, Belle Chase, Louisiana. Councilmember Roussel. And E, Fort Boothville Campsites, Fort Boothville LLC Trailer Park Renewal, 41073 Highway 23, Boothville, Louisiana. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer as for second. Second by Mr. Blank. Is there any questions? Council, administration, audience? Machines open.
Wait. Y'all got B in there.
No, we're just doing C, D, and E.
Oh, C, D, and E.
You deferred B.
D is deferred as well. So I would appreciate if you would take D out and do C and E.
Mr. Blink withdraws his second. Machines are open on C and E. They pass 8-0.
Number 8, introduction of ordinances and resolutions.
Do you have any?
Yes, sir. Okay, the following for Councilmember Konovich. An ordinance to amend the 2021 General Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, Economic Development, Tourism Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in the Parish of Plaquemine, State of Louisiana, to authorize the levy of special taxes therein, making application to the State Bond Commission in connection therewith, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. A resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in the Parish of Plaquemine, State of Louisiana, to authorize the levy of special taxes therein, making application to the State Bond Commission in connection therewith, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. A resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in the Parish of Plaquemine, State of Louisiana, to authorize the levy of special taxes therein, making application to the State Bond Commission in connection therewith, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. A resolution relative to expressing opposition to the Mid-Barrett Sediment Diversion Project and to provide for other matters. For Councilmember LaFrance, a resolution authorizing the Plaquemines Parish Permit Department to issue a special permit to Paulette St. Anne to place park model trailer residence in a C2 zoning district located at 27220 Highway 23, Port Sulphur, Louisiana, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. For Councilmember Brussel, an ordinance to amend the 2021 Manpower, Structure, and Operating Expenditure Budget, General Fund, Engineering and Public Works Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. For Councilmember Gouy, an ordinance to amend and is amended to readopt Chapter 17.5 Parks, Recreation, and Parish Facilities of the Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinances relative to fees and a sponsorship policy, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Madeline A. Becknell, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the map of re-subdivision portion of plots 24 and 25 into lots 25A and 25B, Belle Chase Section D, by Bryant Hammond and Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated September 22, 2016, revised June 25, 2020, and revised again July 22, 2020. The owners having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines, without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. For Councilmember Arborough, an ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of Tract 4 and 5 of original plots 18, 19, 30, and 31, Belle Chase Plantation, Belle Chase, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots 4A and 5A, Belle Chase Plantation, Belle Chase, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the plans and plat of survey by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated October 15, 2019. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines, without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of property of D and D Ilg LLC, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the map of re-subdivision of Lot 4 into Lots 4A and 4B, Demandry subdivision by Bryant Hammond and Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated February 20, 2020. The owners having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines, without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to file with respect thereto. For Councilmember Bartholomew, an ordinance to enact Section 2-80 of the Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinances to provide for the solicitation and engagement of a contractor or consultant to seek grant revenue for Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the introductions.
Thank you. (9A1). An ordinance to amend and readopt Article 9, Section 13-120, entitled Mosquito Control Fees Established and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And there are changes for this piece of legislation. You want to go ahead and read the changes first?
We need an offer in a second first? No? Okay. The changes are on line, we're removing line 15 and 16. On line 46, changing the meter size to 1.5. We're removing section C, which is lines 58 through 61. And that is it on the changes.
Mr. Blank offers with those changes. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Good. Mr. Alborough? Mr. Blank?
Sure. I mean, this clears up some of the confusion that we were having the last time we were in this building talking about this. And, yeah. So this does away with the issue we were having with the motels. It doesn't solve that problem where they're being charged for every individual structure they have. But it does solve those other problems, whereas Grand Bayou Village, you just can't get down there with a truck. They're in a marsh. You can never really control the mosquitoes there, and the plane may visit them, being generous times a year. So it gives those folks some relief because they're not receiving that service.
Any other questions from the council? Administration? Oh, Ms. Newberry?
What is the cost difference since you scratched out some areas? Because I know before we scratched that out, I think it was, if I don't understand, it was $20,000 out of the budget. So how much more is this taken out of the budget?
Sure. So I believe Kim reached out to finance to try and get those numbers. The whole thing would have only been $35,000 a year, and so this is just one section of the three. I mean, if you wanted to call it an entire third of that, but I mean that seems like it would probably be the bigger section. This would be multiple meters.
So I'm unclear on exactly what we're adding or changing on this. Can somebody help me with that so I can maybe have an idea what it's going to cost the mosquito control budget?
Sure. So the main section that's being removed is section C, and so that's what's being removed is for all commercial establishments engaged in the business of furnishing and providing rooms or land intended or designed for dwelling, lodging, sleeping, camping purposes to transient guests for any period of time less than 1 month shall pay half the user fee for each connection.
So
that's
you're not
the part
making any changes to how those people are billed right now. You're just taking this out.
That's it. That's it. They could subdivide it amongst themselves. If there's a street with 5 trailers on it and they're being charged 5 user fees, they could just work it out on their own.
That section's taken out.
That's being removed. So they'll just have to deal with it on their own, and there's no relief there. They could handle amongst themselves.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't had time to sit down and put any numbers together on how it's going to affect the budget.
Mr. Roussel?
Yeah, it's my understanding that the ordinance will stay exactly the same except for the two changes, where an individual has 2 meters at their home, they will be charged for the larger meter and not the second meter. And the other one is the Grand Bayou exemption for the $7, and the rest stays exactly the same.
Okay.
Any other questions from the audience? Machines open. It passes 8-0. Ms. Marcotte, can we go back to L?
Yes, sir. An ordinance creating an additional ferry schedule for the Belle Chasse and Point à la Hache ferries and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Bartholomew, you offer?
Yeah.
Mr. Bartholomew offers. Is there a second? I'll second. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, we just give those working people an opportunity to be able to work. And we can do the split shift schedule within the administration, can do it however they see fit, as long as they accommodate those people in the mornings and in the afternoon to go to work, and organize it during the day until we can go get some funding to change it even further. But long we accommodate those in the mornings and in the afternoon, and based on whatever funding is available, we just go through through that process.
Any other questions from the council? Administration?
Yeah, I would just like everyone to be aware that there's no way that I can make any changes to the ferry schedule without funding. I mean, it basically comes down to, we're short 2 deckhands right now. We've had 2 people quit. So we're having to fill those shifts with overtime and with the couple of maintenance people we have, which we're paying overtime to in order to keep the ferries running right now. We're advertising for deckhands, have been advertising for more than a month, haven't gotten an application yet. So just so you guys know some of the logistical issues with what's going on with this. You know, unless we get more money and we can hire more people, there's no way I can increase the schedule.
Any other questions from the audience?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Bartholomew?
I'm just saying that whatever we have with the powers to be the number of money that's in operating with the schedule that we have, that schedule can be modified to accommodate those people. I'm not trying to go beyond any extreme or anything else. Whatever is in that operational budget at that time, and however you can set it up to make sure we can accommodate those people, I think that can work. But just to have a split shift during the course of the middle of the day, you won't run. But that'll take care of those people until we come back to the next meeting, appropriate the money, and see if it'll pass. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. State your name and address again.
Chadwick Gannikalade, 145 Lewis Lane, Point à la Hache, Louisiana. I agree, Mr. Bartholomew. I am disappointed that the vote went the way it did. I understand everybody has their own opinion. But if we stay with the current amount of hours of operation, I'm requesting one of the ferries, either Belle Chasse return to the 5 o'clock in the morning schedule, or Point à la Hache returns to the 6. That will allow people to get access to the West Bank and go back and forth and be able to get to work and be able to make relief on time. I would not, speaking personally, either one of those ferries going back to the original time, I would not have to travel an hour and 30, an hour and 45 minutes through New Orleans to travel to get 15 minutes from my house. So that's what I would request. Same time of operation, just move the ferry schedule back to either 5 o'clock in Belle Chasse or 6 o'clock in Point à la Hache. For now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Machines open? Oh, Ms. Newberry? I don't see you. Mr. Bartholomew?
Oh,
Mr. Blink?
Sure. Now, Todd, if we just ran one ferry, we could have it open for 18 hours a day, right? The way that it's currently funded?
Yes,
Or
sir.
just one?
Sure could.
And, I mean, just to remind everybody, the Point à la Hache ferry landing is pretty bombed out, and we can't send a garbage truck across it.
That's correct.
And the Belle Chasse ferry landing is in better shape, but it's probably more equitable to have the Point à la Hache ferry online. So as people are further down here, further from a grocery store, medical attention, et cetera, right?
There's pros and cons either way.
Sure.
The Belle Chase ferry has more traffic, therefore collects more tolls. The ferry ramps in Point LaHash will not accommodate any of our equipment. We can't cross a bobcat on a trailer. We can't cross a garbage truck. We can't cross a tractor on a trailer. So with this, the position that the ramps are in Point LaHash, it may not be wise to keep Point LaHash and not have Belle Chase. And then the other thing is we all know the status of the ramps. DOTD could come down here and find something wrong with them and condemn the ramps, and we would have no ferry running.
The smaller ferries in Point LaHash do burn less fuel too, correct? I mean,
That is correct.
trying to lay all this out for folks. I mean, it's not like we, want to be doing any of this. We're trying to make it work. And I mean, at this point, I know it's not the ideal solution, but it almost makes more sense to have one ferry that runs reliable, long hours, than try to spread ourselves really thin with two separate boats.
I don't have a problem with running one ferry longer hours. But I think in order for us to get equipment and garbage trucks and across the river, it needs to be in Belle Chase.
Finished?
Thank you.
Mr. Bartholomew?
And I agree with that. That's not the problem. The problem is working people. Working people. You have people come from Boothville all the way, you have to go all the way around through, catch the Belle Chase Ferry, then come all the way back to Point LaHash to go to work. That's an issue for me. I mean, if y'all don't care, that's fine. But I mean, that's the only reason we're trying to get this thing to accommodate the working class citizens, to give them an opportunity to continue to work and be able to work and to finance their livelihood. And if you don't want to do that, then so be it. I mean, there's nothing else that I can say. My intentions are to accommodate the working class people, bottom line. And I think we can do that if we do it this way. That's all I have to say.
Mr. LaFrance?
Yes, the ferry department is a very intricate part of our transportation in Plaquemine Parish. However, Belle Chase Ferry may probably do have more people using the Belle Chase Ferry because we accommodate a lot of the people from St. Bernard and Chalmette. But however, the Point LaHash Ferry is a very important transportation for the people on the southern end, on the East Bank. So I always supported the ferry situation. There's a lot of people that use the ferries that's coming from Beers, Boothville, Port Sulphur, and to go all the way to Belle Chase. I think one of the problems that we are running into is commitment. We have to have a commitment that we want to try to make this ferry work. You got to have the commitment. Now, am I right when you saying the ferry uses 40 gallons per hour?
The smaller ferry,
Yeah, 40 gallons per hour.
yes, sir.
And the bigger one uses 60 gallons per hour.
Yeah, just over 60 gallons an hour, yes, sir.
So what would happen if we would tweak the hours of the ferry instead of running them every 15 minutes or every half an hour and just run every hour? Could we save money on fuel then?
Yes, sir, because we'd make one less trip.
Absolutely. Per hour. One less trip per hour.
Correct.
So there's a possibility it wouldn't be 50% of the fuel, but it would probably be a good third.
Would you accomplish what you want to accomplish? Because if you run the ferry once an hour from each side of the river, then you're going to fill the ferry and you're going to have people left on the ramp that won't be able to get on the ferry and get across the river in a timely fashion.
Are you sure about that?
Am I sure about that? I mean, in Belle Chase, it definitely would. In Point LaHash, you know, absolutely. When the jail lets out, when school lets out, when court lets out, the ferry down here only holds 35 cars. 35 cars fills it up, and then everybody else has got to wait. Whatever you guys want to do, if y'all want to sit down and talk about solutions, I'm happy to do it. I'll go to meetings. When y'all call meetings, I show up to them. We can sit down and talk about any which way y'all want to do this. You guys decide how you want to vote.
Well, we just wanted to make it work. That's what we want. We wanted to make it work, but we got to have a commitment.
I absolutely want to make it work, Mr. LaFrance. I lived in Braithwaite all my life until Isaac took my house. I absolutely want to make it work. I know what it's like to live my life around the ferries. Last year, I had $3.6 million to run the ferries. This year, I was given 1.5 and said, here you go, run the ferries. I went back and identified more money and begged you guys to vote for it so we could have 2 ferries in operation instead of just 1, 12 hours a day. This is what we have currently. If I get more funding, I absolutely would love to run the ferries more hours, but I just don't have it.
Well, we're going to have to find some money.
Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, I totally agree. The ferries are much needed. I just think that we need to come to some consensus on Mr. Epley getting some finances together and what it costs and it's just bad legislation, and I think we need to get. I just think we need to get a hold on what's it going to cost us every time we cross that ferry, each boat, and we just haven't came to that consensus. So I just wish y'all can do that.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yeah, it's not bad legislation, it's bad interpretation. Now, the thing is that what Mr. Epley needs to say, he need X amount of money going to be done. How much money you need right now at the table, Mr. Epley? How much money right now you say you would need?
$1 million.
All right. Y'all want to go to the budget, Mr. Rennie, or one of y'all want to reconsider your motion? We can appropriate the $1 million. Y'all going to vote for it? We bring it back up. We amend the budget, put the $1 million in there. Since that's the factor for a lot of these council members to do it, we're going to appropriate $1 million. Rennie? Richard? Go ahead and do it. I'll second.
Any other questions? Administration, audience, machines open. It passes 6-2.
Doesn't matter.
Ms. Marcotte?
9A2.
Yes, ma'am.
9A2, an ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of Greenwood Plantation, Bertrandville, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots H1 and H2 Greenwood Plantation, Bertrandville, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the plans and plot of survey by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated July 22, 2009, revised February 11, 2021. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Bartholomew, you offer?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Bartholomew offers, Mr. LaFrance seconds. Any questions from the council, administration, audience? Machines open. It passes 8-0.
Number 3, an ordinance to amend and adjust the fee schedule for emergency medical services provided by the Plaquemines Parish Ambulance Department and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Arborough? He wants to defer?
Nine A4, an ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Live Oak Plantation Development LLC, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the map of re-subdivision tracts GR-1B and JR-1-A into lots GR-1B1, GR-1B2, and GR-1B3, Live Oak Plantation by Bryant Hammond and Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, dated December 28, 2020. The owners, having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines, without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Ms. Newberry? Ms. Newberry off, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFrance. Any questions from the council, administration, audience? Machines open.
Nine A5 is being deferred. 9B, an ordinance to amend the 2021 general fund manpower structure and operating expenditure budget. Director of Operations Department to amend the 2021 general fund manpower and operating expenditure budget. Director of Administration Department to amend the 2021 general fund manpower and operating expenditure budget. Director of Public Services Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And there is a fill in the blank for this one.
Defer.
Mr. LaFrance.
And it's falling
deferred.
off the agenda.
Would like to reintroduce it.
Do we want to go back to number 8?
Yes, ma'am.
An ordinance to amend the 2021 manpower structure and operating expenditure budget. Director of Operations Department to amend the 2021 general fund manpower and operating expenditure budget. Director of Administration Department to amend the 2021 general fund manpower and operating expenditure budget. Director of Public Services Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you.
Nine C, an ordinance to amend the 2021 Public Health Fund operating revenue and expenditure budgets, mosquito control, general and financial administration departments, and the 2021 General Fund operating expenditure budget, financial administration department, otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And there is a substitute for this item.
Would you like to read the substitute first? Oh, you want to?
Substitute, one second. Todd, should we get the numbers to this and then handle it next week?
Yeah, I would like to have an opportunity to get the numbers together.
We're going to defer that one.
Just to let y'all know, this is falling off, so we'll need the new numbers in the legislation next time. Thank you.
Would you like me to reintroduce it at this time? Okay. 9D, a resolution to establish a one-year moratorium prohibiting the receipt.
We'll defer 9E.
I'm sorry, we deferring a 9E?
Yes, ma'am.
9F, a resolution relative to the use of parish-owned and/or operated dock space to ensure the parish is being appropriately compensated and to provide for related matters.
Mr. Bartholomew? Defer that one? They want to go with it.
9G, an ordinance to amend the 2021 manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, general fund interim employee training department, and parish council district 8 department, otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer, ask for a second. Second by Mr. Blink. Any questions from the council, administration, audience? Machines open. Passes 8-0.
9J, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, pump station repairs, parish-wide project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer, ask for a second. Second by Mr. Blink. Is there any questions from the council? Administration, audience? Machines open. Passes 8-0.
Number 10, approval of the minutes from the March 11, 2021 regular meeting.
I'll offer, ask for a second. Second by Mr. Blink. Any questions from the administration, audience? Machines open. It passes 8-0. I'll
No.
defer 11B.
Eleven C, District 8 update. Councilmember Blink.
Most of the things we handled earlier, but I would like to ask, I noticed a lot of equipment that showed up at the government complex, parish emblems, a lot of earth-moving equipment. And with the situation that we have with the internal drainage system and the ditches, things like that, I find that I was much to my surprise that there was a lot of equipment out there leveling these empty fields over by the government complex. And is there any, I actually sent an email to President Lapine asking, what's the purpose, duration, and cost of this project? I've heard nothing as of yet. Is there any light that could be shed on what sort of construction is going on at the government complex? What the logic is for having that work going on at the government complex when there are ditches that are in deplorable condition throughout the parish?
I asked Director Rousseau to help me get some of that ground ready so we could have the festival there in June. Mr. Rousseau contacted Duplessis. Duplessis offered to help at no cost. Mr. Rousseau spent the weekend on a machine dragging the disc on his own time, and Duplessis offered to help us with leveling. It hasn't cost the parish anything.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. Is there, if I need to go out and seek donations to have, some drainage work done in my district, I'm happy to go do that. I hope that's not the way we need to operate. Is there, we're going to be getting like $1,200 a day to have this festival there?
No,
I
no,
understand that there's gonna be-
no. $900 a day.
Got it. It's just an awful lot of work and effort. Look, I bought a ticket. I'm going. I love Hogs for the Cause. For a great cause, it's like the Burning Man of smoked pork, right? It's great. But, as a parish, is prepping for a party our top priority, or is handling drainage for the citizens the top priority? And I'm going to quote Reverend Turner here. Sometimes I can't hear what is being said because the actions are very loud. But is that equipment going to be turned around and deployed back on the ground in the districts to have some drainage freed up after this?
I don't know. Director Rousseau, would you like to answer that?
We had two dozers there that were on the parish for the ballpark, spreading the sand and clearing the trees back there. Duplessis volunteered their time and a dozer to help clear. The field had a bunch of big ruts, holes, animal burrows, so nobody would step in them, break their ankle at the Hogs for Cause. All we did was chop it, level it, and then let it sit and the grass grow back.
And
That's pretty much what we did, sir.
And thank you for your efforts towards those ends. Obviously we want to, have a nice light shined on the parish when folks are here, see how we keep things up. And I'm sure the government complex will be tip top when they arrive here.
can I
how long
ask?
is that equipment going to be tied up over there, getting ready for Hogs for the Cause?
But that's it with the dozers. They graded it Monday and Tuesday. We tried to get it done as fast as we could so we can just let it set and the grass grow now. It's nice and level. The only thing we're gonna take now is a tractor, that's a spare tractor sitting in the back, a smaller tractor, and pull a grading on it just to smooth it out a little bit more, and we're just gonna let it sit.
So we're gonna give that same kind of treatment to everybody who rents something from the parish?
Everybody who rents.
Well, here they renting the field to have hogs at a cause, but we had a crew rent the fort for 2 days, and nobody even come to help me cut grass, so.
Can't say that for sure, sir.
Sir?
I can't say that for sure.
Mr. Roussel?
Am I on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me say this. I did witness what we're talking about now, and I want to thank Mr. Duplessis and his family for donating that one dozer. However, I did see our survey crew out there. I saw our parish trucks out there hauling limestone, hauling matting to put the pipes in. My constituents on Walker Road saw it, and they called me and want to know if we can't put limestone on Walker Road, how can we be putting limestone in the ditch over there for drainage for a function that's happening in June, when they're asking for limestone today because they can't get to their property without going through these potholes. And so, I mean, I'm not sure who pulled the plug and made the decision to make that Hogs for Cause a priority, and I'm all for raising the funds for that cause. However, I'm going to go back to the word of the optics. To my constituents who saw that, have a very serious issue with Walker Road. And to say that, or try to push it off as it's being donated, I appreciate Mr. Duplessis donating his family's dozer and the 2 trucks that I saw out there. But the rest of the trucks and the dozers and the excavators and the bobcats and the survey crew were all on parish time. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So let's not try to mislead people by thinking that the parish did not put a lot of time, effort, and money into this project, because they did. And when we had that meeting that you set for April the 1st, you're probably going to hear this from my constituents, because I heard it. And then, it is what it is. But it seems to be, somebody got to pull the plug and made it a priority. So, and I'd like to clear for the record, those accolades to Mr. Roussel, that's the director, Mr. Roussel. I had nothing to do with this project, and I didn't do anything, didn't get on a tractor, didn't go anywhere, except looked out of my secretary's window, the council secretary's window, and watched the project unfold. And believe me, they did a pretty good job until it rained, and the whole place flooded. So I hope you get a ditch in there somewhere.
Well, I think it rained because 10 inches of rain, sir. Unprecedented rain. We hadn't had that in a while, a long time. And yes, we got water all over the place.
Mr. Scott, let me just say this. I'm tired of hearing the unprecedented rain argument. The pump stations were at 50% capacity at one, 33% capacity at another, and 0% at the other one. So, believe me, if those pump stations were up and running like they should be, we wouldn't even be talking about this.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, I'd just like to reiterate something that Mr. Bentley was talking about, the swimming pool, the park. We still have,
Can we wait till your update, sir?
yes,
Thank you.
the District 1 update, yeah.
Yes. Mr. Alborough? Or are we talking about Mr. Blink's update right now? No, sir. Mr. Alborough?
I just want to thank Mr. Director Roussel and, I'm sorry, who was it? Mr. Duplessis. This event is a great thing for our parish. The exposure we're going to get is wonderful by doing this little bit of work. Not only is it helping secure this event possibly in the future every year, but it's helping out our local seafood festival when it returns, the Plaquemines Parish Crawfish Cook-Off when it returns, and making it easier for them. And, those 2 organizations alone, I'm not familiar with Hogs for Cause, But I do know the Seafood Fest and the Crawfish Fest donate thousands upon thousands of dollars every year to local nonprofits and things throughout the parish, so appreciate it.
Mr. Roussel?
Yeah, in light of those comments, Mr. Arbro, do you know if the Hogs for Cause is going to commit for more than 1 year? And is the Seafood Fest and the Crawfish Fest going to move their location from the pavilion to this new location?
I cannot speak on the Hogs for Cause. I had no knowledge of it besides a little here and there and from there. The Crawfish Cook-Off was trying to come back this year, but logistically could not make it happen, but it will be back the following year. And I have not heard on the Seafood Fest.
No, I know, but the comments that you
Yeah, no, it's at that location, yes.
out in front, so they're not going to go back by the pavilion?
This is not by the pavilion?
No, this is not by the pavilion.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
This is in the front of the complex on totally virgin land. Never mind.
Mr. Blink?
Certainly. Mr. Turner had a question. And I want to end with this, that when there is a desire, materials, equipment, personnel seem to materialize out of thin air to make things happen. And I would love to see that happening in my district along my subpar drainage system that, we're trying to get patched up here. The trees in the drainage canal, the mainline drainage canal for more than a year with pending work requests. And I'm at the point right now where I'm going to have to get a mechanically inclined and volunteer-minded constituents to get a tractor. I'm going to get the boat myself. I'm going to put a chain around it, and we're going to have to yank the thing out ourselves. So we would love for the those efforts, the concentration of men, materials, equipment, to come down where there are problem spots. The survey crew and everything. I'd love to see that kind of thing happen in my district, and I bet my constituents would as well. But I yield.
Mr. Turner?
Burgard Turner, 161 East Bellevue. Councilman Blink, I'm just doing a follow-up on the comments that were made during the presidential update and some of the very things you're talking about right now with the drainage being plugged. And my question is, shouldn't that be part of the regular maintenance to the administration? Ditches being plugged, shouldn't that be part of the regular scheduled maintenance? Ms. Newberry asked, do you have a plan, or are you developing a plan? Which is it? Do you have a maintenance plan to take care of drainage, or are you in the process of developing one?
We get on the schedules as manpower and equipment is available to move to different locations. We got 9 districts. I wish I could put a tractor or a piece of equipment in every district.
But you put equipment on this project, right? And we have drainage. Again, we find ways to do that which is important. Drainage is critically important. If you have the outfall ditches plugged, at what point does it become a priority where other things stop and you take care of it? So that was my follow-up, Mr. Blink, just to support your position. You mentioned about old request. Mr. Roussel mentioned about funding being appropriated nearly a year ago and things not happen. How do you justify that? As an administration, why isn't it happening? If the money is appropriated, if you have the equipment, why don't you have a schedule? And why isn't it being followed? First quarter of this year, have you identified which ditches are plugged? Have you already identified that, or do you now, 3 months into it, have to go in and identify it?
And Mr. Turner and Mr. Roussel, we don't necessarily need to go full bore, even have a schedule, but just even having a map showing these are where the problems are at, to where when the machine is next door to another problem, it's not, driven way away and the crew is wasting time, hauling machinery back and forth. Even just a comprehensive map with all of the work requests would be very, very, very beneficial to you, myself, the guys on the ground. I think even just that would help a whole lot. And it would just be very clear where the work needs to happen. And I've actually created one of those for work requests in my district, and it was pretty straightforward. We did it in a day or so.
We'll certainly sit down and prioritize work requests and act on the ones that have the highest priority.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
11D,
Yes, ma'am.
District 1 update, Councilmember Bartholomew.
Mr. Bartholomew? Your update.
Okay, thank you. Back to what I was having reference to, I was apologize for that. It's that Mr. Bentley talked about the baseball park at the event. We still have lights that's been by the storm still on the ground. And some poles and wires are hanging. We need to clean it up. And we have some trees, I think, I talked to Scott about those, where it had been wet, that he couldn't get to them. The trees were down, they were cut. And we need to get that. The pool, we need to be cleaned, and we need to start the process of the chemicals in it to bring it up to speed, and we need to start doing that now. And also, you need to get with the administration and look at the contract or the CEA, whatever, which way you want to roll, with the fire department so that the pool can be open and along with the recreation program this summer. We didn't have anything last summer, but we need to move it in direction and get that rolling for this summer program. And the ditches, I mentioned that earlier about the all-fall ditches. Those are the required ditches for drainage. So maybe if we don't have no personnel or have the opportunity, we can get some of the equipment too. Start cleaning those all-fall ditches with our required ditches. We have permission to do those on private property because they provide drainage on the highways. So we'll be looking for some recruiters, so people that know how to operate these machines. And we appreciate all the help we can get on that. That's all I have.
Mr. Bartholomew brought up baseball fields, and I was at a baseball game this week in Buras, and I got question about ball field and Belle Chase. Do they have lights in Belle Chase at the ball fields?
Yes, sir, they do.
Because they said they had to go get the light packs with the generators to play ball.
We have a lot of lights that are out since the storm. We had somebody go through there recently, and we're waiting on a quote from them to see what it's going to cost to repair the lights on the ball field.
All right, because I told him I didn't know nothing about up there, but I'd found out about it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
On Mr. Bartholomew's update, earlier it was mentioned that there are pumps on the east bank that's just been sitting, being that the one pump station is out. Pumps have, quote, have been sitting since Katrina. Has the parish done any maintenance on those pumps? Has the parish done any maintenance on those pumps that have been sitting since Katrina?
You talking about the pumps that are standing by that were from Katrina?
I'm talking about the pumps that you mentioned during the update.
Yeah.
Once Mr. Bartholomew mentioned that the pump station was out, he asked about additional pumps, backup pumps, and you said that pumps have been sitting since Katrina. If we have those pumps, have we been doing maintenance on them? Have we been running them? Have we ever utilized them?
I don't know that answer about running them in the past. I did get with the superintendent of flood control and told him let's get one or two of them running out of the 4 or 5 just to get them going and get them up to date.
But as of right now, for the record, you don't even know if they're running, and we've had them since Katrina.
No, they're not running, no, sir.
Okay,
We got to
thank you.
check them out.
Thank you.
11E, District 7 update, Councilmember LaFrance.
Yes, I just received
QN?
a text that the Belle Chase ferry is out.
Pride went out of service earlier this evening with an oil leak. The mechanic was en route to go check the engine and see what needed to be done.
Okay, thank you. Do we have an update on the coronavirus?
Yes, we do. These numbers are as of March 17th. Confirmed positive cases, we have 1,784. That's a plus 18 from the 17th. We have a probable positive case of 2,433. That's a plus 22. Positivity rate of 4.1. That's a plus 0.1 as of March 17th. The death total, we have 25, including probable 1. Vaccine update, according to LDH 14.39% of Plaquemine Parish residents, that's 3,364, have completed the vaccination series. Governor Edwards announced that effective March 29, Monday, all residents 16 years or older will be able to receive a COVID vaccine. You can be 16 or older to receive the Pfizer brand. If you want the Moderna or the Johnson & Johnson, you have to be 18 years or older. Vaccines, the Modernas are available to the public at the following locations this week: Plaquemines Parish Health Department, Plaquemines Pharmacy, Delta Drugs, and Plaquemines Medical Center. On Monday, March 29th, there will be a vaccine at the Plaquemines Parish Pavilion hosted by PPG with the assistance of PMC, PPC, LDH, and the National Guard. There will be 200 Moderna and 200 Johnson & Johnson vaccines distributed by appointment only. To schedule an appointment, you can call PMC 504-564-3344.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor, for that report.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, under my district, I'm going to defer all of my items at this time. However, I would like to take a point of personal privilege and ask the directors that are still left here to ask the administration why did they decode our access cards to get in the parking lot. Even though we don't park in the parking lot, we like to walk through there to get into the elevator. But our cards have been decoded, and we've been denied access to this building through that parking lot.
I wasn't aware that that happened, so I'll get to work on it.
And the other part is that I can't get into the finance department when I go over there because my code has been decoded over there as well. So I'm not sure who's making us not have access to the buildings, but it seems ridiculous that we can't get in and out of government buildings with our IDs.
I'll find out.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to pass on just a reminder, the Newport Sulphur Library ribbon cutting ceremony is Wednesday, March 31st at 11 o'clock. I hope everybody come out. We're
Thank you.
excited.
Thank you. Mr. LaFrance?
Okay, do anyone at the administration desk, can you give us an update? What DOT expects of us for the Belle Chasse Bridge with the water and the sewer line?
So we've had multiple meetings with engineers working on the Belle Chasse Bridge project. They initially came to us and asked us to pay for relocating water and sewer lines. They were told no. Then we had a Zoom meeting with the transportation director for DOTD, and he asked again for us to pay for the relocation of water and sewer lines, and he was told no again. We have made it very clear from the administration that we are not going to use taxpayer money to do anything to move utilities for that bridge. DOTD is taking it upon themselves to move the utilities where they need to move them in order to build the bridge and put them back exactly the way they were.
Could you let us know what type of money they was asking for? Or what was the protected cost?
They weren't asking us for money. They were asking us to go ahead and move the utilities. The cost estimate that we had was about $3 million.
Thank you.
Not on the agenda, I'd chime in.
Huh?
While we got into that, it's not on the agenda, so I'm not going to bring it up, but Baton Rouge getting $1 billion.
Microphone, please.
Key in.
Please use the mic.
I'm not talking.
Okay.
Not on the agenda.
Okay, also, I would like to get the keys to the civil service office in Port Sulphur in the governmental building. I have some people who would like to move into them office. Presently, civil service is not utilizing those offices, so I would like to get the keys to those offices.
I'll get with you this week.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
See that, Mr. Bartholomew? I can get them keys.
Thank you. I need two more keys.
G, District 6 update, Councilmember Newberry.
I just want to end it.
One key in.
You're on.
I just want to end it with this. What hasn't been discussed recently is we have hurricane season coming up in 2 months. And President Kirk isn't here. Do y'all have a plan on how we're going to get the ditches cleaned up and ready to go for hurricane season? I know we have pumping station issues and we're working on that, but what about the ditches down in the Jessup Bend area?
Right, we have an update meeting coming up with the Homeland Security Director on April the 15th, and we're going to go over the plan and go from there, ma'am.
And who was that, Scott? Who is that?
Patrick Harvey.
Oh, Patrick, okay. Will it be okay if Mr. Blink and I get an invite to that, since it's in our district?
Well, it needs to be all the ditches and.
Or whoever's, you know.
We'll let him know.
Okay, thank you,
He's setting up the meeting.
thank you.
And again, let everybody know the Belle Chase Ferry's out, so Point LaHash Ferry is your best bet. Ms. Marcotte H.
Notice is hereby given that at its special meeting to be held on Thursday. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me restart. Notice is hereby given that at its meeting to be held on Thursday, April 22nd, 2021 at 3:00 p.m. at its regular meeting place at Plaquemines Parish Courthouse Council Chambers, 18055 Highway 15, Point LaHash, Louisiana. The Plaquemines Parish Council plans to consider adopting one or more resolutions ordering and calling an election to be held in the parish of Plaquemines to authorize new ad valorem property taxes.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Roussel motions, is a second. Second by Mr. Blink. Machines are open. And it passes 8-0. We adjourn at
Yeah, the ferry doesn't shut down until
5:51 p.m.